Welcome back here to the show. Happy to have on for the first time ever. Just talking to him in the break and getting some information about him. Jon Garris. He's one of the co-hosts of the Bow Down podcast, talking a little UW football. John, good to have you here with us. Um, the expanded Big Ten is here. We're all kind of getting ready to get used to these new matchups and new rivalries and new places. And how's this been on your end?
You know what? It is pretty exciting. It's been bittersweet because, you fall in love with the Pac-10, the Pac-12 conference for so long, and you like to stick with your roots. You like to stick with your guys. Everybody that goes to the draft from the Pac-12. Maybe if they're not from Washington, they're still a Pac-12 guy. They're still a Pac-12 quarterback per se, because there was a lot of bias in the rankings when it comes to West Coast teams and this and that. So I think we could see that kind of be put to the side with Washington, USC, UCLA joining one of these bigger conferences like the Big Ten, where they're always on the national spotlight and they're always in those prime time games, and they're not playing at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night like you would see in all those Pac-12 games. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be more so interesting to see how they kind of change, because the Big Ten has more of a smash mouth style of playing football, where it's run the ball, uh, very stout defenses, and the Pac-12 is more so throwing the ball all over the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two things kind of coincide with each other. But I'm definitely excited to see how they're going to fare in the Big Ten.
Looking at the schedule for Washington this year, that game having Michigan come to town, the defending national champions, I'm assuming that's probably circled on the schedule. Are there any road trips out there that are like a first time road trip that you're looking at and saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see this new stadium or what it's going to be like on the road in the Big Ten?"
You know what? The Penn State game, me and my co-host we were talking about it on our last record. The Penn State game is going to be their whiteout game for when Washington comes into town. So we're definitely trying to make it out there to that one. Other than that, I mean, it's going to be cool to go to Iowa with Iowa's tradition about waving to the kids overlooking from the hospital. I think that's really, really cool. Um, Indiana, just because it's just different, and Washington's not usually traveling to Indiana. I think that's cool, and even Rutgers is not well known in the college football universe, but even going out there to New Jersey, and that's the birthplace of college football, they say. I think that's going to be an interesting trip as well. But I mean, the Penn State got to be number one, because the whiteout game that is going to be rocking over 100,000 people. So that's going to be a tough, tough, tough environment.
So many new things. We've talked before with some other guys, again, as we're talking to Jon Garris here from the Bow Down podcast. So many other, guys who cover some of the other now former Pac-12 teams. We talked to them back before July 1 about some of these changes. It's interesting to kind of to go through and everyone, it's funny. There's some excitement. There's some trepidation. Now, we've noticed that guys are comparing notes on best pizza places. Have you gotten together with other writers and other podcasters about where to go eat in Bloomington or Piscataway or Champaign or Iowa City or wherever?
You know what? We have not yet got to
Oh,
that point, because
what's wrong with you?
we're still trying to figure out which games we're actually gonna make it out to, or like rank the games by priority. But that's definitely something that we need to make a move on going forward. That's for
Now, looking at what happened in the offseason with Washington, was there any way they could have found to keep Caleb DeBoer, or was that just inevitable once Alabama comes a knocking that you have to go?
I preached this for the longest time. When you have a coach like Kalen DeBoer, who his start is from the NIAI level, he went to Indiana offensive coordinator, Fresno State offensive coordinator, eventually became the head coach. Decent success. Then you overtook the Washington Huskies football job. So it wasn't like he had any ties to Washington. It wasn't like he had any roots. He doesn't have any loyalty to Washington. So for him, he even said it came out maybe last week or a couple weeks prior that Alabama was really the only job that he was willing to take to leave Washington for. And can you blame him? We had a couple former players on the show, and even them, they were like, you know what? You can't even blame DeBoer, and we're sick of hearing like all the Washington fans hate on DeBoer because at the end of the day, he's not really a Washington guy. And he just came for a few seasons, had great success, probably two of the best seasons in Huskies football history since the 91-90 championship team. So you can't, I mean, he's the hot commodity in the college football world. And then all of a sudden, Nick Saban retires, and there's, look at that, the best job, the best college football job in America opens up. You can't hate on the guy for taking that job. I mean, could he have done it a different way? Sure. Could he have addressed the team a different way? Sure. But there's never the right answer when it comes to doing things like that. So, I mean, it's a shame he left. I wish he could have been around for a lot longer, but I appreciate the last 2 years that he gave us. I mean, you can't write that up any better, going to the national championship game and then even 2 losses in the previous year. But I mean, I absolutely love last year. Last year will stick in my mind for forever. I'm forever grateful for him for that season. And that's just one of those seasons that no matter what, 10 years, 20 years down the line, you're always going to think back and be like, remember that magical season that we had going to the national championship game, although not ending the way we wanted to end. It's just such a special team and a great group of guys.
Yeah, it's not like Don James like up and went to Tuscaloosa. I mean, it's a little different, a little different, right? Exactly. Well, so DeBoer is gone. Tell us about this Husky team that hits the field here in 2024. Obviously, new coaches, new personnel. There's a lot different from the team that we last saw that lost to Michigan in the title game back in January. How competitive will this team be overall, and then especially taking on the new challenge of being in the Big Ten?
You know what? I love the hiring of Jedd Fisch. At first, it was kind of like, who's really going to come in and take over? Who's really going to come in and take over this team that was just in the national championship game, kind of keep all these pieces together and be competitive going to a new conference in the Big Ten? So I think from his standpoint of bringing in players, bringing in these transfers, getting a lot of the freshmen that were originally committed to DeBoer to stay on board and fall in love with his plan and everything that he's been preaching. I think based on transfer players coming in, the returning players, although I know they're getting a lot of heat for only having 2 returning starters from that national championship season last year returning. On the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to the offensive line, the quarterback play, the wide receivers. I think the defense is going to be pretty good, but Jedd Fisch came in and immediately he just started, making the team his own with they've been preaching the be a pro mantra ever since he took over. So we've had Tyler Owens, the strength and conditioning coach for the Washington Huskies right now. He came on our show. We talked to him about just how he's trying to change the culture of the Washington Huskies, and being that he's trying to preach, you know what, we're more than just a college football team. We're the 33rd NFL team. We want you guys to be a pro, not only on the field, but off the field, in the weight room, in life, in the classroom, every aspect of life. We want your approach to be like you're becoming a pro at it. And then you see all these pictures of Bill Belichick walking around and Pete Carroll walking around. So he is definitely taking that be a pro mentality and just running with it. And I couldn't be more excited for it. And I really think this team could be special in this upcoming season. I don't know if they're going to replicate the season they had last year, but I think they're going to be very, very competitive.
So a lot of the media seems to be sleeping on them right now. What do you have as an expectation for the season in terms of wins?
I mean, they're definitely going to be over 500. They're definitely going to a bowl game. I could see them at high having 3 losses on the entire season. And that's where, everything comes together and everything gels well for them. And then on the lower end, they're gonna be a 500 football team, because let's face it, there's not there's, for as many great teams in the Big Ten, there's not that many. There's a bunch of not that great teams in the Big Ten as well. So I think they'll definitely be flirting around 500, but my high ceiling for them would definitely be about 3 losses on the year.
Awesome. Well, Jon, we will leave it there. Welcome to the Big Ten. Good to have you with us. We look forward to talking with you again down the line once you make that trip out east.
Absolutely.
And Penn State. Jon, thanks. Once again, the podcast is the Bow Down Podcast, and he is Jon's here with us. Jon Garris, once again, one of the co-hosts of that podcast. Appreciate his time and glad to have the Huskies in the Big Ten. We've got more to come. Keep it here